Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 5, Chapter 19. He's hidden it from the wise and revealed it unto children and fools, thought Levin as he was talking with his wife a little while later. It was not that he meant to compare himself to a wise man and thus quoting the gospel. He didn't call himself wise, but he couldn't help feeling that he was more intellectual than his wife and Agafya Mikhailovna, that he employed all the powers of his soul when he thought about death. This terrible thought other manly spirits before him had tried to fathom, with all the forces of their intellects. He read their works, but they too had not seemed to know 1/100th part as much as his wife and his old nurse, Agafya Mikhailovna. And Katya, as his brother called her, and he also now began to take pleasure in doing, had, in this respect, a perfect sympathy, though otherwise they were entirely opposite. Both knew, without a particle of doubt, the meaning of life and of death. And though they were of course incapable of answering the questions fermenting in Levin's mind, they had their own way of explaining these great facts of human existence, and they shared their belief in this regard with millions of human beings. As a proof of their familiarity with death, they could, without an instant's delay, know what to do for those who were dying and feel no fear, while Levin and those who, like him, could spin out long discussions on the theme of death, had no courage, and felt incapable of aiding a dying man. Constantin Levin, when alone with his brother, would gaze with terror into his face, and with growing terror await his end with fear, and be able to think of nothing to do for him. The sight of the sick man paralyzed him. He didn't know what to say, how to look, or to walk. To speak of indifferent things seemed unworthy, impossible. To speak of melancholy things, of death, was likewise impossible. Oh, to be silenced was even worse. If I look at him, he'll think that I'm studying him, I fear. If I don't look at him, he will believe that my thoughts are elsewhere. To walk on tiptoe irritates him, and to walk as usual seems brutal. Kitty apparently didn't think about herself, and she had not the time. Occupied only with the invalid, she seemed to have a clear idea of what to do, and she succeeded in her endeavor. She related the circumstances of their marriage. She told him about herself. She smiled upon him, she caressed him, cited cases of extraordinary cures. It was all delightful. She understood how to do it. Levin could not see where she had attained this inner wisdom, and neither Kitty nor Agafya Mikhailovna had satisfied with offering physical solace or performing purely material acts. Both of them instinctively, vitally, unreasoningly, turned their attention to the dying man's higher needs. And speaking of the old servant who had lately passed away, Agafya Mikhailovna said, "Thank God he had confession and extreme unction. God grant us all to die likewise." Katya, though she was busy with her care of the linen, the medicines, and the bandages, even on the first day succeeded in persuading her brother-in-law to receive the sacrament. When Levin came to their rooms at the end of the day, he sat down with bowed head, confused, not knowing what to do, unable to think of eating his supper, of arranging for the night, of doing anything at all, even talking with his wife. But Kitty showed extraordinary animation. She had supper brought, she herself unpacked the trunks, helped undress the beds, and even remembered to scatter Persian powder upon them. She felt the same excitement and quickness of thought which men of genius show on the eve of battle, or at those serious and critical moments in their lives when the chance of showing their value presents itself. It was not yet 12 o'clock, when everything was neatly and carefully arranged. Their 2 hotel rooms presented the appearance of private apartments. Near Kitty's bed, on a table covered with a white towel, stood her traveling mirror with her combs and brushes. Levin found it unpardonable in himself to eat, to sleep, even to speak. Every motion seemed inappropriate. She, on the contrary, arranged her toilet articles without her activities seeming in the least disturbing or unsuitable. Neither of them could eat, however, and they sat long before they could make up their minds to go to bed. "I'm very glad that I persuaded him to receive extreme unction tomorrow," said Kitty, as she brushed her perfumed hair before the mirror in her nightgown. "I never saw it given, but Mamma told me that they repeat prayers for restoration to health." "Do you believe that he can get well?" asked Levin, as he watched the part disappear from her hair, when she took the comb away from her little round head. "I asked the doctor. He says that he can't live more than 3 days. But what does he know about it? I'm glad that I persuaded him, she said, looking at her husband. All things are possible, she added, with that peculiar, almost crafty expression which came over her face when she spoke about religion. Never, since the conversation that they had while they were engaged, had they spoke about religion, but Kitty still continued to go to church and to say her prayers with the calm conviction that she was fulfilling a duty. Notwithstanding the confession which her husband had felt impelled to make, she firmly believed that he was a good Christian, perhaps better even than himself. He amused himself, possibly, by calling himself an unbeliever, just as he did when he jested about her broderie anglaise. This woman, Marya Nikolaevna, would never have been able to persuade him, said Levin, and I must confess that I'm very, very glad that you succeeded. You made everything look so neat and comfortable. He took her hand without daring to kiss it. It seemed to him a profanation even to kiss her hand in the presence of death, but he pressed it, and he looked into her shining eyes with evident contrition. You would have suffered too terribly all alone, she said, as she raised her arms to cover the glow of satisfaction that she felt in her cheeks, and at the same time to coil up her hair and fasten it to the top of her head. She doesn't know, but I learned many things at Soden. Were there people there as ill as he was? Yes, and more so. It's terrible to me not to see him as he used to be when he was a boy. You can't imagine what a handsome fellow he was, but I didn't understand him then. Indeed, I believe you. I feel that we should have been friends, said she. She turned towards her husband, frightened at what she had said, and the tears shone in her eyes. Yes, you would have been, he said mournfully. He's one of those men of whom one can say with reason that he was not meant for this world. Meanwhile, we must not forget that we have many days ahead of us. Well, it's time to go to bed, said Kitty, consulting her tiny watch.